Hi everyone, Brent Abel here, Web Tennis. Really glad that you're with me at this very important webinar today that I know is going to help out our tennis games. Thanks for attending. And at the end of the webinar, I'm going to post a link where you can find out how to get a very cool bonus lesson today. If anyone is on Twitter and you feel compelled to tweet what's going on today, that would be great. Anything you find interesting, if you want to throw a tweet out there, be sure to use the hashtag WebTennis, WebTennis. I would appreciate that. And today we have a very special guest who really does not need any kind of formal introduction, but his resume is so darn good. I do want to mention just a couple of highlights. Literally, this guy has done it all in tennis. As a college player, won the NCAA title, doubles title while at UCLA, and also as a grad student there at UCLA. He won the Pacific Coast Southwest Pro Tournament in 1966, where he defeated all of that year's Grand Slam winners, Manuel Santana, Tony Roach, Fred Stolle, and Roy Emerson, on his way to winning that Pacific Southwest Singles title. As a college coach, he led the men's Pepperdine team to a Division I top 5 ranking for 10 straight years. As an author, he has written 3 tennis books, at least 3 tennis books that I know of. If I'm the better player, why can't I win? Also Think to Win, and his recent book, Tennis, Winning the Mental Match. It's really an honor to have the legendary Dr. Alan Fox with us today. Doctor, welcome, and thanks for sharing some of your valuable time with the players here today at Web Tennis.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Brent, and thanks to you 100 people for checking in. I'm looking forward to it. This is the first webinar I've ever done, so I'm fascinated with the technology.
Well, and I'll tell you, this thing, I'm hoping is really coming off as clean as I think it is, and your microphone is working great, so I appreciate that. And the first question that we've got today, Doctor, is that age-old question where, especially in singles matches, we can win the first set, or we're up, let's say 3-1 or 4-2 in the second set. And I know in your new book that you focus on this specific challenge that so many of us have. We get up a set and a break and find a way to kind of cough up that second set and just absolutely butcher the third set. Help us out. What do you have for us that's going to help us start to learn how to close out that second set?
Well, the start of it. The way I like to approach it is to try to get perspective on what's happening first, and then go to specific ways to treat the issues. And so it's useful to understand what kills people off, just to start with, is they really don't quite understand what's happening, and they just react to their natural inclinations. They kind of go along with their emotional system, which generally is telling you the wrong thing at that point. The main problem in tennis is that the outcome is uncertain. People really like to win, and they really hate to lose. It's a very personal sport, and so it feels more important than it is. And there's a lot of reasons why, which I won't bother with, but I do cover it in the book. And so it feels really important, and when you're in this situation with somebody that's dangerous, that can play well, it becomes stressful. The closer you get to the finish, the more stress you feel. And I say you, and this is general. Some people do, some people don't. Again, it's different depending on whether you're confident of winning or not. If you're playing somebody you're a lot better than, and you're confident of winning, there isn't that much stress. If it's uncertain and the person is dangerous, then you do feel stress, and the stress grows as you get closer to the finish. And recognize that there's a quantum difference between getting close to winning and actually winning. Okay, there's a jump off, a transition, and it's somewhat of a strong jump. You either The thoughts in the back of people's mind is, do they have it or don't they to make the jump? They obviously have the technical game to get close, but can they make the jump and push it through to a finish? Uh, and so that is a stressful situation, and people, without consciously thinking about it, tend to shy away from this stress. They try to reduce it unconsciously. The emotional system, by the way, tends to run under normal circumstances. The emotional system runs the logic system. You may think the logic system is the dominant system, but it's actually the emotional system usually. And so the emotional system is telling you to reduce the stress. It doesn't like it. And secondly, it doesn't care whether you win or not. And so what tends to happen then is either people will relax, they'll take their foot off the accelerator because they're shying away from the stress of finishing. It's kind of a dirty job, and if they can get away from it, they ease off and relax, maybe hoping that it will take care of itself and they can get through the set without really humping up and feeling the pressure to finish. And so, of course, the first thing to do is to be aware that you may do this. Okay, and by the way, there are a number of issues. The choking occurs when you're ahead, which is paradoxical. It should be when you're behind, because the choking is essentially some sort of a paralyzing fear, and what the fear is the fear of losing, and so it would seem to be more fearful when you're close to losing, but for a number of reasons, which this answer is getting pretty hefty as it is.
Oh, it's good. It is really juicy. It's great. I mean, I think one of the things that you just mentioned there, Doctor, was that you sort of hope that the finish kind of takes care of itself. And what I think happens too is I think a lot of us get out there and we've played well the first set, and now we're up a break in the second, and you're right. I think that the emotions take over, and it's almost like we are hoping that our opponent will just kind of give us the rest of the match.
Yes, it leads to conservatism, where you don't want to take risks, and so you pull off your shot. The two biggies that happen when you get hit, either some people ease off and the other person catches them, or they keep pushing, but then they get more and more nervous as they get near to the finish, and so then the issue is choking.
Right.
And so those are two separate issues. The first one, the easing your foot off the accelerator, there you have to understand that if you're prone to doing that, and you sort of have to be self-aware. I mean, if you've had a lot of matches and you've had leads and you come off saying, well, I got overconfident and then I lost, you're a victim of the first issue.
Right.
Recognize that. I mean, a lot of people come off and they say it's a problem. They don't do anything about it. So it's just, you have to be aware of it and have the will to keep pushing. You have to say, I'm going to try to avoid this. I got to watch myself because this is what I tend to do. And so being aware of it is the first step in pushing through it.
Yeah, I think for me in my matches especially, I mean, when I've had, it's kind of two different levels. When you're playing someone that you really don't know if you can beat, or you're playing a sort of a top name player, I can get to that point where I'm about to close the door, and I've had that experience where I just rush through it. I start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm about to beat this player who's got, he's got this name, he's got all these credentials, all this reputation, and that really kind of clouds the simplicity of what got me to that point. And what's helped me the most is to actually take a little extra time between points where I'm confident now that, I'm not rushing this. I'm not worried about getting to the finish. I'm going to keep working hard, but it just seems if I consciously try to take a little, 5 to 7 to 10 extra seconds to kind of start the point, that it helps me not panic as much and kind of consider the outcome.
I think that's very reasonable. What people do tend to do when they start to get into these pressure choking situations is they lose their mind a little bit and they start rushing and they fall into a bunch of errors quickly. It's like a blur to them. So they'll be serving for the set at 5-4 and they start rushing. Interestingly enough, by the way, I don't know if you read the last tennis magazine. I'm not in love with most academic sports psychologists. I have to say. And if you read the last tennis magazine, they had some sports psychologist from some large university, the supposed researcher. And do you know what his conclusion was in this article, by the way?
No.
His conclusion was that you should speed up under pressure. Speed up the time between points.
Okay.
That,
And your opinion?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, how do you feel about that? I mean, I just feel that's the opposite thing that I want to do. I mean, I don't want to speed up because I feel like I just start rushing, and for me, I lose confidence when I rush.
You tumble into a bunch of mistakes when you're in a hurry. He's dead wrong. As I read it, I'm thinking, God, these academic eggheads
Right.
that haven't really been on the court that much, they come up with these conclusions that are just stupid.
Right.
Yeah, his reasoning was that what happens is thinking is not good for playing tennis points, and so if you rush, you won't have enough time to think, which is pretty stupid.
Yeah.
And in the first place, yes, you don't want to be thinking while you're hitting the ball, but rushing between points is going to get you out there unprepared to start the point properly.
Right. Right.
And sort of off balance. And so he was sort of mixing two things. It just, when you said that, it just struck me because I read that article and just thought it was annoying.
Well, okay, so besides taking time between points, is there, anything else specifically that you could tell us that once we get to that, I mean, it's almost like and I tell a lot of my students, I say, when you win the first set and you get up a break 3-1 or 4-2 in the second, I mean, you have to kind of practice what this mental situation is going to be like. How do you want to be at that point? And so what I encourage my students to do is, visualize that moment. Take some time off of the court and kind of visualize that moment. How do you want to respond to that? But also I think that you need to go through some practice matches where maybe you set up that situation that you can practice it. So when you finally get to that point, it's not a mystery. I think you said this before a few minutes ago that you want to kind of prepare mentally of what you're going to do, how you're going to handle that moment in the second set when you're just about to cross the finish line.
Yeah, I think that's a valid approach. I mean, for me, the idea is, just there are certain axioms in tennis that you have to have in front of you that you don't question, that are always true. Because when we're talking about like when there's stress and the pressures of finishing and so forth, your logic system may lead you to do things that are counterproductive. You can't trust it. You can't trust it when it tells you to do this or that. You have to have certain things that are always so. And one thing that's always so is if you're up a set and a service break, you need to be up a set and 2 service breaks. And if you're up a set and 2 service breaks, you need to be up a set and 3 service breaks. And so the truism is you must absolutely keep pushing until you shake hands. You have to recognize that you must do that if you like winning.
I play doubles frequently in the seniors with, I'm sure you know him, a fellow UCLA alum, Steve Cornell.
Oh, yeah, sure, I know Steve.
And one of the great things that Steve reminds me when we're playing doubles is this exact situation that you just said it. And when you mentioned it, his what he says to me is that we can be up a set and a break, and as we're about to receive serve again, he says, come on, we need insurance. We need to break again.
Absolutely.
We need to get some insurance. And I've always loved that about him, and I feel that exact same way in singles and in doubles. That if you can get that second break, you've kind of got not that you got one to waste, but you've got a little insurance going. And so I like.
You not only need the second break, you need the third break.
Right, right.
It's sort of, I mean, I was playing in that Southwest that you mentioned. I was playing Tony Roach in the quarterfinals, and if I won that match, I'd be in the semis, and it was going to be televised in my hometown in LA, and so I desperately wanted to be in the semis, and I was playing Tony, and I was up a set, and I was up 4-1, 2 breaks, and serving. I wanted every point so badly. I remember I got a bad call. I was up 15 love in the game, and I got just this atrocious call. And so I wanted that point. I needed 30 love. There was never enough, margin in my mind, and so I'm arguing about the calls, and Tony came up to me, and he said, Alan, don't worry about it. I'll throw the next point.
Okay.
Which shows the class of the guy. And I said, Tony, you need to throw 2 points. Because it should have been 30 love.
Yeah.
And if he threw a point, it would only be 30-15. I needed a 2-point margin.
Okay.
That's how over the top I was about how much margin I needed. I mean, I left 2 breaks, and it was a fast concrete court and so forth. That wasn't enough. It's never enough. And ask Nadal his strategy, and he'll tell you the same thing.